tomorrow, transfer deadline day. Of course, the January window. Will there be as much business done as there is in the summer window? You bet there will, because it's all moving and shaking out there. Newcastle United in amongst it big time. Brighton being involved in the conversation. Arsenal in the conversation. It's all going down. And Alex Crook, our talkSPORT colleague, will bring us more right now. Mr. Crook, good afternoon to you. It's welling up nicely. We've been talking about Moises Caicedo down at Brighton. Brighton say, yeah, Arsenal might have bid twice, but you ain't going anywhere. And that is not going to change, as I understand it. What do you know, Alex?
Yeah, good afternoon, Jim. We're on the home straight now, aren't we? Really looking forward to tomorrow night, that deadline day special. But my information when it comes to Caicedo is the same as yours. I think Brighton were actually taken by surprise that Arsenal even bothered to bid again, having told them in no uncertain terms on Saturday that Caicedo is not for sale this window. That second bid did go in. I was told it was rejected in seconds. Surely Arsenal aren't going to bid again, are they, having been told he isn't going anywhere? And you have to say credit to Tony Bloom, because it's big money, £65 million plus £5 million in add-ons. But Tony Bloom believes that Caicedo is a key player for Brighton. They're in the last 16 of the FA Cup. Great win at home to Liverpool, live on talkSPORT yesterday. They believe they're in contention for a European place. That's something they've never achieved in their history. And he is putting that before a big windfall from Arsenal.
Not just Arsenal, Alex. I've been told, Simon, this lunchtime, all interested clubs being told politely but very firmly, stay away. He's not leaving. I mean, that honestly, that is a strong message at this time when you're talking money and the profit margin being so huge.
But as we know, Brighton have sold quite a significant amount of players recently. And raise quite a significant amount of money. So it won't necessarily be something that's fundamental to whether their business can go forward, whether the business of Brighton Football Club can go forward. I mean, whether we like it or we don't, I hate to say this to pop people's bubbles and bring them crashing back down to earth. It's not a case of if this player goes, it's a case of when he goes. And when, if Brighton are brave enough, is not now. Fair play to them. But the summer will come round. If he keeps on performing at the same level he's performing at now, Arsenal will buy him then.
If somebody was to come in, I mean, we're talking about a second bid that allegedly, reportedly, Alex, in the neighbourhood of 70 million. If somebody comes in, Simon, with 80, 90, I mean, will Brighton buckle, or do you stand firm because of what you've said? Well,
it's remarkable money in terms of a player that's played 26 games for Brighton, was out on loan 18 months ago to a Belgium side, I think. And has yet to really put any longevity into his performance. It's remarkable money. It's remarkable money. But these are remarkable transfer times at the time. Myself and Alex spoke before the World Cup about the expectations of this transfer window and how potentially it could be bigger than ones that have gone before. And so it's such, I think it's running at about 470 million. I assume you already know that, Alex, anyway, which is a record-breaking January transfer window. And you look at the landscape of the world, all we do is open the window, say doom, gloom, everyone's going to hell in a handcart, yet football thrives and survives. But if you get to the point where someone's offering you 80, 90 million quid and it's all on the money, it's not on the drip, it's not contingent upon anything.
It'd be crazy to say no.
I think you're moving into the territory of saying, well, I'm cutting my nose to spite my face.
Do you believe Brighton, incidentally? As a buyer, would you believe Brighton when they say stay away, he's not going?
Yeah, why not? I mean, Tony Bloom, that's his business. Tony's in the business of gambling. That's his business. So he'll look at the reality of what he thinks is worth and think, well, there's an educated risk here. I've got a manager that's worth something, a player that's worth something. I'll support them.
I think maybe Trossard might have an emotional involvement in this, because he's just gone to Arsenal, and we had a fan on earlier suggesting he went reasonably cheaply to Arsenal. So if you're Brighton at this stage and you think you've lost one of yours for whatever reason on the cheap, the next fella that's going to the same club, you might play hardball a little bit more.
Yeah. We understand Spurs frustrated in the market this lunchtime, Alex. What's happening?
Yeah, this all centres around Pedro Porro, right wing back at Sporting Lisbon. Very much Antonio Conte's top target this window. There were noises coming out of Portugal at the weekend that maybe this was a done deal. I was told that wasn't the case on Saturday night. Spurs were still waiting for the green light from Sporting. He played in the Portuguese Cup final and appeared to be waving goodbye to the Sporting fans, Pedro Porro. But we hear today negotiations have hit a standstill. I wouldn't say this deal is definitely off, but at the moment, the two clubs haven't managed to come up with a deal that suits both parties. And I think the issue is on the Sporting Lisbon end. Tottenham have agreed to pay the release clause in Pedro Porro's contract, but not in one go. I understand it. Again, to use Simon's expression, it would be on the drip. It would be paid in instalments, which is not uncommon when modern day transfers happen. But at the moment, it looks like Sporting Lisbon, having initially suggested, yeah, okay, we'll take that. Now they've somewhat moved the goalpost. So whether this can be resurrected between now and 11 o'clock tomorrow, I think this is one we're going to be tracking, Jim, right up until the deadline.
Yeah. I think Brian Gill's out there as well from Tottenham.
Yeah, he's off to Sevilla, I believe. Yeah. I think that will happen. Whether Tottenham have an alternative target in their sights, I'm not sure. They'll inevitably be exploring for alternatives to Pedro Porro, but I think Antonio Conte will be frustrated if this one can't be done.
Yeah, one we mentioned earlier, Harrison Ashby, the youngster at West Ham, set to go to Newcastle today, 2 million plus 3 million add-ons. That's set to be confirmed later on the day. What about down your neck of the woods, Bournemouth? A double deal, is it?
Yeah, Bournemouth were expected to be busy this window. They've made 1 or 2 additions already. Dongo Ouattara has come in. Darren Randolph has come in. Mateus Vinha, the Uruguayan defender, is having a medical today. He'll complete a loan move from Roma with the option of a permanent deal in the summer. And the other one that's close is a Sassuolo midfielder, Hamed Traorè, very talented, young, versatile attacking midfielder. £20 million the fee for the Ivorian. Bournemouth hopeful they will get that one done. I think they'll have half a dozen players signed on the dotted line by the time the window closes. And will that be enough to stay up? Well, we'll find out.
Oh, he needs them, doesn't he? Gary O'Neill needs players in, Stuart, does he not? If Bournemouth are going to stay in the top flight.
Yeah, I'd probably say that Bournemouth were my favourites to go down at this stage of the season. So you certainly need recruitment there and a bit of help.
Yeah. I think the message got through to Bill Foley. Dig deep. Chris Smalling, Roma. What's the news there?
This is an interesting one, maybe more for the summer than for now, because he's into the last few months of his contract. There have been some reports that he's asked for a transfer. I'm told very reliably this morning that is not the case. Actually, he's negotiating over potentially extending his stay in Rome. But if he does become available as a free agent this summer, I think there are going to be more than one Premier League club who would be keen to sign him. He's really rebuilt his reputation in Italy after an unhappy end to his Manchester United career. He stayed injury-free. He's been a key player for Roma, and I think if he is available on a free transfer, then they'll be queuing up, quite frankly.
I agree with that. I was out there some time ago. He was playing for Roma against Parma. They get ran ragged that night by a certain Dejan Kulusevski of Parma. Any news about Maguire at Manchester United?
I don't think so. I think Manchester United's window could be closed, Jim, both in terms of incomings and outgoings. There's concerns over Christian Eriksen. Horrible tackle from Andy Carroll in that FA Cup game at the weekend. Eriksen left the game on crutches. United fans will be hoping he's not out for a significant period of time because they're short on options in midfield anyway. But at the moment, it doesn't seem there's an appetite to bring in a replacement. And in terms of outgoings as well, I think Erik ten Hag has made it very clear to the board, we need to keep this squad together. They're still in 4 competitions. Great chance of qualifying for the Champions League, into the last 16 of the FA Cup. They should be in the League Cup final. They've got the second leg live on talkSPORT on Wednesday, and they've got the Europa League around the corner with Barcelona as well. So it's an exciting time, and the squad is stretched. I don't see anybody of significance leaving Manchester United between now and 11 p.m. tomorrow.
So, I mean, Alex, Newcastle seem to be in the lips of everybody at the moment, interested in signing Sheffield United midfielder Sander Berg as well. Now we're hearing, is this true, big interest in Conor Gallagher?
I think there's always been interest in Conor Gallagher from Eddie Howe. I think they tried last summer. Obviously, Conor Gallagher, to his credit, has played quite a few games in the first team for Chelsea this season. So I don't think he's actively pushing for a move, but we know, we broke it on talkSPORT last night, Enzo Fernandez, big money move for him, very much back on Chelsea's radar. If that does happen, not only might Gallagher find his game time limited, but I think they need to trim the squad, and Newcastle would be interested in taking Gallagher to St James's Park. But it's a conundrum, isn't it, for Chelsea? Do they really want to strengthen Newcastle and help their bid to get in the top 4? Because once Newcastle are a Champions League club, I think they're a big threat, aren't they, for the established order in English football?
We always knew, Simon. I mean, Eddie Howe said, no, it's not going to be, we're not in the territory of Mbappe and people like this.
No.
We're not going to be Johnny Splattercash. It is very interesting the way they're going about this business.
Yeah, well, at this moment in time, what they've got is validation, because ultimately Eddie's come straight for the door, rectified the problem, which was relegation last season, rectified it with aplomb, started this season on fire. So he's just proving the necessity to go out and buy these ridiculous priced, highfalutin names by buying players that are sensible players for Newcastle to be buying. But notwithstanding that, they're still going to spend significant money. They're still going to be spending £100 million plus per transfer window. Maybe not this one, but they're still going to be spending a significant amount of money in transfer windows every single year. And, Eddie is going to be pushing the team forward, and at some point you're going to get the balance between what Eddie's doing against what the expectation is. Right now, everything's in his favour. Yeah,
Alex, Stuart Pearce is with us this lunchtime. Stuart, this will interest you. Your kind of position. Bayern Munich, we're hearing, set to sign fullback João Cancelo on loan from Manchester City. Likely there'll be an option to buy in there as well. Of course, his time's been limited in a City shirt of late.
Yeah, it's a strange one with him, because you go back last year and the year before, raving about him. Incredible, playing in that inverted fullback scenario and gets forward and was a real threat. And I know playing up against him last year for West Ham, he was a real threat in the positions he took up. So it surprised me that you would let a player of his ilk go out on loan. It just shows that maybe he's not delivered this year at all.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, this is building now, isn't it? You can feel the momentum in this window now, the day to go.
You certainly can. And actually, one of the producers was asking me earlier which teams are going to be busiest on deadline day. I think there are a few, aren't they? We haven't mentioned Everton yet. Sean Dyche due to take his first training session this afternoon. They're going to want to do some business, and they've got some money now from the sale of Anthony Gordon. One player certainly on their radar is Kamaldeen Sulemana. He plays for Rennes over in France. Southampton had a bid rejected last week. I was getting the impression over the weekend that maybe Southampton were going to walk away from that deal anyway due to the asking price. Looks like Everton now favourites to sign him. We've got Fulham as well. I think you're going to do business under Marco Silva. You mentioned Sander Berge. He's on Fulham's list as well as Newcastle's. They're close to paying £9 million for the Torino midfielder Sasa Lukic. Southampton desperate to get a number 9 in between now and the window. And then does Enzo Fernandez get this move to Chelsea? I think that saga will rumble on as well. So lots to debate, lots still to happen between now and tomorrow night. And Simon's right. The net spend for Premier League clubs is going to far eclipse anything we've ever seen in a January transfer window before.
Crooksy, we've been sat on this announcement of Dyche going in as Everton manager for a few days now. You'd have thought that if Dyche comes through the door, he's going to want maybe to bring 1 or 2 new players in. Do you think his announcement's been put off because the club don't want to give him freedom to bring a few faces in, or not?
Well, I think they were wanting to bring a couple of players in anyway, even before the change of manager, because they're in dire straits, aren't they, Everton? But there are certain financial restraints, even with this Gordon money, £40 million up front, rising to 45. I think they've just been sorting out his backroom staff. The players, I understand it, had the weekend off anyway, so there was no pressing need to announce Sean Dyche. He's arrived at Finch Farm this morning. He looks pretty happy with his lot. I think what's interesting here is the Everton players already there that will benefit from Sean Dyche's arrival. Michael Keane, for example, barely kicked a ball this season. I think he was on his way out under Frank Lampard. He will stay now. Mason Holgate was close to joining Nottingham Forest. Does Sean Dyche see a future for him? So I think it's as much about this appointment, getting the best out of the players that the Everton board feel underperformed under Frank Lampard, as adding new faces. But they will want a couple through the door, no question.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.